It smells like dinosaurs. But Lake, how do you say it?
McGlory.
Lake McGlory. Have you ever recorded the starlings' peeps? What is that? Their peeps, or is that a bigger bird squawking and then their little peeps underneath that? You know, like there's like a softer whirring chirping, but then there's a louder squawky warbling. There's the warbling underlayer, which sounds too big to be coming from. Ooh, what was that? Did you see that?
And then so what it is,
What was that? What was
so,
that?
so what it is just
Bird that goes into the water.
yeah. Well, he catch fish under the water.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah. It's amazing how he can get that far in less than no time.
Oh, that was like a flash.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he goes back down. It'd be a while before he come back up again.
Seconds.
See where he at now?
If I had a time machine, I'd actually like to go at least 2 periods of time. I'd like to go back 300-400 years and see how the Native Americans used the creek and the landscape before settlers arrived, and just get a sense of the natural environment and the ebb and flow of what nature brought upon itself. The second time frame that I'd like is probably in the 30s or 40s, before there was too much clutter going on, but St. Petersburg was a city. There were some homes and developments near or on the creek. There was the initial maritime industry on the creek, and I'd be very curious to see what that life was like.
Oh, I've been living on the creek for all my life, and back when I was about 10 years old, my buddy and I, we rowed our boats from Bayville Harbor. We had to make a portage on 22nd Avenue because you couldn't go under. Carried our boat over 22nd Avenue, Lakeview, and rowed up to the dam at 9th Street. The dam was spillgate for into Lake McGlory. But raised up at Lake McGlory with the boat races and everything there. I don't want to put it on you, but the do-gooders, the environmentalists said it was bad. They were tearing up the lake. Well, the boats actually, I thought, and all the other people, the tribe elders, thought that they kept the lake aerated. And then when the boat races weren't aerating the lake, the hyacinths took over and cost the city thousands and thousands of dollars to vacate the lake of the hyacinths. And now the waters are still.
She is, her name is Dr. Lady, Ladee, Hubbard. And about 3 weeks ago, when the Guggenheim Awards were announced, she won a Guggenheim for fiction. The first one that she published was The Talented Ripkins. And it's very interesting in the sense that the characters are very unique. Everything takes place in Florida. She spent all her summers here with my parents in this house. She and her cousins. She has cousins that are the same age as she is. And they would all come here in the summer for about 6-7 weeks. This book won the 2016 Rona Jaffe Foundation Writers Award and the William Faulkner-William Wisdom Creative Writing Competition. And by the way, her senior advisor at Princeton was Toni Morrison. She was very close to her. She's amazing. It's my daughter. I'm very proud of her.
He went and got his rod. And he had the hook. He was fishing. He was just plain fishing like I was. And he just put it down there, and he grabbed it. And when he grabbed it, he had him up on top of the pipe. You almost had him out. And on the bank. And he made one flip, and he got off the hook, and he hit the water. Yes. And he was about 8 foot and a half. Yeah.
Something else.
He was a pretty good sighting. But I wish he could have caught him, but it just wasn't for him to keep him. It just wasn't for him.
I'll tell you what happened to it. I wasn't here, so I might be lying. This is what I heard. When I got here, they had a yellow tape at that pole there to the corner of that building here. Police was out here, some news reporters, all that good shit. What is that? And no, I didn't see it, but I knew that's what they was doing. Like I said, they had it blocked off. They had everybody. We was standing right over there near that pole. And first they had to catch the alligator. They had some kind of little thing, something that made a noise that drew the alligators out here, 2 of them. About a 10-foot one, and had a baby with it. So that had to be the female. Some kind of way they got it, lured it over here. I guess they got ropes or whatever they used to grab a hold to it and put it up on the bank. And they cut it open to see was that the one. And that was the one. That's all I know. Yeah, on the hair, yeah.
So, you know, there's a woman that has been sitting in the Bartlett Park area, more specifically across the street from Bartlett Park, on a consistent basis for over 2 years. She doesn't speak English, at least from what I've always heard. She speaks Spanish, and she's always, ironically, her hair is always neatly combed. Her clothing is always intact, but she has these 2 large suitcases that she travels with. I don't know her name. She must be in her 40s, maybe older, but she has withstood the elements. Her skin is a bronze color. She's really tanned. I went looking for her one night, and she just disappeared into the darkness. And I said, I wonder why she's not in a shelter. Her safe haven is somewhere in these bushes. It has to be, because she just can disappear.
Yeah, this neighborhood, say around 1970, it went from being a segregated white neighborhood to almost 100% black neighborhood. And you had a lot of young families and a lot of kids. And some of those young families are now 60, 70, 80 years old, and they're in the neighborhood association. They've got grandkids, but they moved to different neighborhoods. So there was a demographic
Shift.
Yeah. So in 73, they had a couple referendums. One would have built 500 units of new housing. And the black community seemed united in asking for a yes vote. And the Southside neighborhoods voted yes. And the white neighborhoods voted no. The other ballot initiative would have created a huge area where they could tear down housing. And I think that pretty much happened anyway. The gas plant, USF, the Bayfront Hospital, all children's, they tore down the public school. Tore down 2, really. Davis Elementary, 3rd Avenue. Rosa Park Elementary was torn down for a hospital parking lot. And the Davis Elementary was torn down for an industrial park that never got built. I'm looking at this as a study of structural racism. The university's doing it right now. And I think it was the city took advantage of a little bit of paranoia in the white people and some willingness to break the law in the real estate industry, and they steered black people into certain areas like south of 15th Avenue to the lake, east to 4th Street, and west to 49th Street, and not north. I was about to say white people move a lot, but I think normal people do. I think low-income people can't afford them. They bought the house in 1969, and they're still here. And it costs a lot of money to have an appraisal, and costs your time to look, costs your time to sell, doc stamps and all that. And they get into a house and they're frugal. And that's some of the people, homeowners, maybe worked as a domestic servant, the lowest pay in the city, and somehow they scraped together enough money to buy that house, and they've paid their mortgage, and they've made the repairs.
Families are dying out, just as an example that you use, and there's argument over the money that's to come. And so somebody has property rights, they sell it for these investors that don't care anything about your history, and you're coming in and they're buying these houses for little or nothing and are walking away laughing to the bank and demolishing these homes and bringing in new homes that there's no way you can afford. It's unreal. I get someone every day. I call somebody today and told them, take my name off the list. I'm not selling.
If I imagine the creek from 100 years from now, I'll speak in a split personality. One side of me says that the development push is going to continue, and the creek will look very different. It'll look gentrified, which kind of crushes my soul. The other side of me is far more hopeful, and it thinks that we're going to prevail in terms of science and the value of the mangroves, the value that a tidal estuary plays in our environment. We're probably going to see a very different coastline in 100 years with rising sea levels. So I'm curious where the mouth of the creek really will be. The mouth of the creek could easily be as far in as 4th Street by then. So that will change a lot in the environment, and it'll be a matter of whether or not the city has been smart enough to do managed retreat and live with the new realities, or whether they were just foolish and continued to build until it wasn't sustainable.
You know, the one thing growing up you learn, I don't care where you're from, don't mess with people's money. I don't care what color you are, what level of income you got, don't mess with if it's my 25 cents, my grandma taught me, if that's 25 cents and you know it's not your 25 cents, don't touch it. Because somebody will come back for it.
On Lake Bartlett.
Yeah.
It smells more sulfurous and less briny. I don't know if that's what that smell is. It's like a deeper, earthy, stinky than a farther out sea smell.
I want to know if dead bodies out there. I always wonder what's dead bodies out there.
If we fish the anchor would set a light. And in that direction is where we're cast. And it means that that's God's way, where everything's going to be good. It's going to be good. He promised in Valle, in Katrinchas, on Judas, Matthew was the first. Me, Sulalin, saying I anchored, I heard no more.
So how you feel about that?
I felt I was Holocaust, and I was
Take your time.
Holocaust
Take your time.
as a Rome.
Find your words.
I was a shepherd that led the shepherd.
Find your words. Go ahead. You through? You through?
Well, New York, I was a professional guitar player. Yeah, I left Sarasota and went home with B.B. King. And I left B.B. King with Johnny Taylor. Left Johnny Taylor, went with O.B. Wright. Left O.B. Wright, went with Z.Z. Hill. And then John Lee Hooker, I was around them. And then turned back around, I was around a lot of other musicians too. And then I switched out and went to gospel, professional gospel. They called it the blues now. I don't know the name of the park, but it's right downtown on Full. Right up Full Street, right downtown there. Mm-hmm. And I went down there with my son-in-law. I went down there one time, and I was just sitting up there. They said, "Well, can you play?" I said, "Well, you don't know if I can play now. You got to hear me first, then you know I can play. When you hear me, then you know I can play." But he said, "Well, come on, jam with me." I went on to jam with him, and he looked at me. He said, "Oh my God!" He said, "Man, you do some really good." I said, "No, I'm just doing what I can do." You see, but what makes it so different is I'm a southpaw. See, they play the right-handed guitar, they play the right way, but I play the same guitar, but I turn it upside down and play it.
Left hand. So you're lefty.
I'm lefty, yeah, southpaw. They looking at me trying to chord it. I said, you can't get it, because the finger's too fast, you can't get it. He said, I ain't never seen a left-hand man finger that fast. And now you got another guy that's coming out now, and he's really bad, Eric Gale. Now he's bad.
It's a whistling sound, a very loud whistling sound, like that comes from a large machine or instrument, but it's right before when the sky gets really black and the wind is really driving, so I assume, oh, there must be little tornadoes, and it's a little tornado detector. And the Coast Guard's right there, so it seems like some kind of device they have that whistles an alert. But why, I don't know. Yes, my mother's boyfriend is obsessed with coming to look at the Coast Guard every time he's here.
Okay, I'm gonna keep it really real with you. I have a big booty woman that stays right over there on 5th Street. That's why I come down here. God gave it to me. I asked for her about like 30 or 40 years ago, and finally God gave her to me. Now, how you like them apples? Be careful what you ask for, because you might get it. Be careful what you ask for, you might get it. But that's why I come to visit her from Thursday till Sunday. Then I go back to work on Monday and all over again. And I catch fish every now and then.
Do you eat them?
Huh?
Do you eat them?
That's why I'm fishing. I'm not on YouTube. You know what YouTube is? Where they have them sports. They show people how to catch fish, and they throw them right back in the water. I'm not down here for that. I'm living off the land. God provided this fish, so I'm taking advantage of it.
I'm standing right behind some mangroves, which are blooming. They have small little white flowers that grow along the stem like grapes. The seed pods swell up almost like fruits.
flat fruits, kind of the shape of the leaf.
One time at Lake Magori, my mother said there was a bunch of nuns. This is a funny story. And my mother said to the nun, "Where is a little blonde towhead?" And the nun pointed underneath her habit, underneath her dress, and I was in there feeling her petticoat, sucking my thumb with the silk up underneath her dress at the Lake Magori.